So I want to go more towards the personal side, a little bit away from basketball. So I heard that you have a mechanical engineering degree. How did you choose to go into the line of coaching basketball instead of using your engineering degree?
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure to this day really what engineering is, and I joke about that because, you know, my dream job in high school was to be the next Bob Costas, like just the person that was at every major sporting event, from the Olympics to Major League Baseball, postseason play, to he just was always in studio and always the one doing all the real life stories, you know, surrounding the Olympics. And so I just figured that I didn't want to end up as the sports anchor in like Timbuktu. So I was good in math and science and just said, I'm going to Purdue, I'll try engineering. And ultimately, I'm not sure that by the time I got to truly engineering classes, I was almost halfway through the major and just thought, okay, I don't know if this is what I'm going to do with my life, but boy, I'm learning a lot. And so I got my degree in mechanical engineering, but really just wanted to play basketball for a living. I mean, ultimately, I wanted to play in the WNBA, and that was my dream. And I tried out for the Detroit team, didn't make it, went overseas thinking I'd have another chance to do it. And it happened to be when the other professional league, the ABL, folded, so all those players, the Katie Smiths of the world, came into the WNBA, and I just knew there wasn't room for a 5'5" point guard that wasn't named like Tisha Penicheiro,
right?
You know. And so, you know, it was the crossroads, and so I interviewed for a lot of engineering jobs and actually kind of learned what industry-wise, you know, that I was capable of working in. Took a job in cellular infrastructure back when they were putting cell towers in subways in Japan and things like that. That was going to be my job, like really working on a design team for Motorola. And so I took that job, but before I started, I got offered a coaching job. When I interviewed for that coaching job, I just knew, like, basketball just wasn't out of my system. And 20 years later, you know, it's just still not out of my system. So I'm not exactly sure to this day what engineers do, but I know that it's a degree that helped me learn to think and process. And so because of that, like, I think I utilize it on a daily basis. I just don't utilize it in terms of differential equations and heat transfer and things like that. Yeah.
I asked you that question because, and you know, the staff here, they know I work as a civil engineer during the day, and I think it's so funny how everything just comes full circle.
Yeah.
I got into tech and I played basketball there, and it was kind of just like, you know, by the time I was halfway through the major, I was like, well, I can't quit. I'm just so stubborn. I'm like, I'm not gonna quit. But I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. So I worked as an engineer. I still do to this very day, but I knew that I wanted to be in sports. And so I think it's funny how everything's full circle. Like, it's all going to come back whether you like it or not. Like, you're going to be where you're supposed to be.
Well, and I think engineering, it just happens to be one of those majors that you can go in any market after that because it teaches you how to think.
It does.
And I think that's important. You know, it's not just memorization. It's a lot of making assumptions and then using those assumptions to solve problems. And so, I mean, that is the real world. Yeah. That is, you know, we're constantly put in situations where we have to make decisions and process information and make the best decision. So, you know, yeah, all right.
As someone who aspires to have children one day and be married, I'm talking to a woman who has been there, done that, is doing it. How do you balance such a busy schedule with coaching and traveling and being this awesome woman plus an awesome wife and mother as well? You have 2 girls, right?
I have 2 girls and a son.
And a son.
Yeah.
Sorry, son. Did not mean to leave you off.
Yeah. How do I do it? I don't think you ever know. I've always told people parenting is always kind of a crapshoot. You know, there's one thing I know in this world, I will always say, the one thing I know in this world is basketball. With parenting, you just try not to screw up your kids, you know? And at the end of the day, when somebody gives you a compliment like, wow, your son was really polite, or you know, then you pat yourself on the back a little bit and say, okay, I'm not totally screwing them up yet. But I always knew I wanted to have kids. I knew I wanted to have them sooner rather than later. I don't know that there's such a thing as having it all, but I also wanted my kids to understand that professionally they could follow their dreams. And so I always wanted to be a strong role model in terms of having a career, doing something I was passionate about, so that they know, regardless of what it is, what that career path is, that, you know, that they can follow their dreams and be the role model that way. The WNBA life is unique. You know, I've spent the last 2 summers living away from them, and it's probably harder on my girls than my son, you know, but this was a unique opportunity for us where they'll move into market and we'll be together full time, which my husband's really excited about, because it was hard to be away. At the same time, you know, the off season is really an off season, you know, and unlike college coaching where there is no off season, right, and there's a week here or a week there, you know, I really get to be that stay-at-home mom type, you know, in the off season, and be at every soccer practice and cheer practice and lacrosse practice, and have lunch with my daughter at elementary school and do those things. So they feel loved. They feel like I'm really engaging in what their lives are about at this time. So, you know, there's good and there's bad, but I think this transition will be easier for our family to all be in the same place year round.
Does the hubby get a lot of time too? Does he complain ever about?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that probably he gets the least amount of love, you know? I mean, especially because when the last 2 summers when I've been gone and you get home, it's all about making up for lost time with your kids. And so, but at the same time, because he's retired and he's at home, I'm around him all day then too, you know. So I'd like to say through osmosis and being there, you know, that it's all good.
So you flew in from Connecticut to Atlanta, 48 hours you've been here in Atlanta, and of course the weather today, it's a little gloomy and cold and raining. It's not representative of our normal weather.
Right.
But how does Atlanta, let's hope, right? How does Atlanta compare to Connecticut, and which one is better?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously Atlanta is better, first of all. Second of all, I flew in from Fort Myers, and it was probably 80 when I left.
That's
you know, so definitely a little bit of culture shock that way. But for a place to live year round, I'm excited. My kids are excited about seasons and a real fall, and I know it's hot here in the summer, but isn't it hot everywhere?
Right.
So, you know. So I think the idea of truly having seasons is exciting for us, and just, you know, kind of being part of this organization has been as good as anything.
Well, Coach, welcome to Atlanta. Thank you again for sitting down with me today, and thank you again to all of our fans watching, and thanks again for running with